Okay, so the next part that I'm going to talk to you about is the UR22 actually set up. So essentially what I've done here, it's sitting at about 2/3, so halfway would be, that's halfway obviously on the gain for the first input. And I've got just a couple of points forward in front of that. And that seems to be giving me a pretty good level. It's basically, and I'll show you that later on, but essentially it's giving me a good solid green red bar on the recording. And I'm just recording mono for now, so I'm not really worrying about stereo or anything like that. And the reason I'm doing this level of gain, and I might even consider doing a bit less, but essentially it's plenty, because later on in the software, whether I'm using Soundbooth, Cubase, whatever, you do one process which is called normalize, and it actually increases the levels across the entire track, and it can even equalize all different separate recordings to be the same level. And you don't want to introduce too much gain now, because that's just going to be amplified later on. So what I'm finding is that level is fine. XLR is pretty straightforward. It's just a simple cable that plugs straight in to the device. Now I've got the option of obviously of using unbalanced or balanced plugs, whether it's guitar or anything else. But just an interesting thing, apparently when you plug in XLRs, the device recognizes that it's a microphone, and it immediately sets itself to handle the microphone and the all the dynamic range of someone speaking into a mic. So it's designed to pick up that it's, if someone puts in the normal plugs for say a guitar or anything else, it'll also pick that up and recognize, and obviously then it starts to adjust for that. The only other thing I need to worry about is obviously the headphone, and then the volumes for me being able to hear exactly what I'm recording. I'm just using a headphone to literally listen to it live. This allows me to hear what's going on straight into the headphone, and then if I start swinging it across to here, I actually can now actually hear what's going on in the actual DAW software itself. So this is allowing me to hear what's going through into the device. This is allowing me to hear what ends up going into the software. That's something I'm still playing with, but that's essentially what that is. So the other stuff you need to know about is the output, and that output is a volume control for output to the listening speakers, which I don't have plugged in, but the line output here. So this is so that you can actually adjust the volume to the speakers that you might plug in through here. I've got the phantom switched on. So the phantom switch is on, and it's indicated with that light there. So that's my phantom switch. This is obviously indicating that I'm plugged into the computer with the USB. With peaks, the apparent advice is on the instructions is to turn up the volume until this is peaking and then throttle it back. Yep, that's definitely an option. But look, if you've turned on the software and you can see you got a good green healthy recording, then I'll show you how it's done later. But anyway, that's your option there. So everything's great. It's looking to me like the recording's really good. Now, incidentally, I wasn't actually talking into the mic before, hence the reason why the sound might be a bit off, because I'm actually staring at the device instead of my mic over here. Just to remind you as well, I am using the NT1-A microphone made by Rode, condenser mic. And as far as I'm concerned, it's an excellent microphone, definitely capable of, you combine this with the UR22, and I'm pretty certain you've got yourself some podcasting going on. You've definitely got the ability to record a vocalist, sound for anything to do with animation maybe, or if you're doing voiceover work for clients, and I'm certain that this is quality combination here. It's definitely given me a very strong signal. Like I said, I'm recording straight into Adobe Sound Booth. So that's the other thing to keep in mind is the software, and it is working with Adobe Sound Booth flawlessly. I haven't downloaded the Cubase software just yet, but that's something I can easily do. Like I said, Sound Booth seems to be the first entry-level type digital audio software that is quick and easy to use. That's probably the advantage of Sound Booth, is that it's just quick and easy. And if you've got the Adobe suite, why not use it? So the only thing that you probably prefer with Cubase might be the presets and the filters and all that other stuff that you can use to clean up the audio, which I'll show you how I do that as well. By all means, this isn't a professional instructional thing, but it certainly gives you an idea of what to buy if you're considering buying the UR22. For all intents and purposes, if you're a podcaster or you're recording for music, vocalists and guitars, I'm certain you'll be happy with the device. So next thing I'll show is the software itself, and how I'm sort of just recording straight into the software, and then B, how I hooked it up, which was pretty simple. And then the next thing I'll show is maybe just some quick filters that I put on top of things, just little effects that you can then see how it impacts the sound for final output. First thing I'm going to do is install the drivers. When I initially looked at this sound card, USB sound card, I was kind of like, I don't know about installing drivers. I was thinking maybe, can't you just get one that's plug and play? But apparently they all require you to install a driver. So the UR22 comes with a CD, and apparently it's the very first thing you need to do before you do anything else, including plugging it into your computer. So I've just put that CD in now, and hopefully that's going to boot up for us and do something. And so essentially the very first thing you've got to do is the driver and get that working. So let's just double check what's going on. Okay, so here it is. This is the CD that comes with the in the box for the UR22. So we've got the uninstall, the documentation. I might as well just have a quick look at it, and we've got quite a bit here, and there's obviously different instructions. Let's just quickly open that up and have a squeeze. Okay, so I've just opened up the CD. So I've inserted the CD, and we'll go straight to the documentation. And we'll have a look what it's saying to us. So that's it there, the UR22. And this is the very first thing you've got to do, I'm assuming, before anything else. Let's have a look here. So it's got the operation manual, fair enough, but it's got the drivers, which is the most important thing that you do. Yamaha Steinberg USB driver, software program required when connecting to a computer. Make sure to install it before initially using the device. So probably put a little sticker on that device for people to understand that, because quite frankly, I would assume also, just as a feedback to the companies, if, for example, the CD is missing, you know how people hand these things to each other and sell them on eBay and all the rest, and if the CD is missing, I would have thought you should be able to pick up the driver off the website as well. That might be handy if you can just offer that to people. You can see here the connector types that it takes. I'm using XLR, and incidentally I'm using the NT1, the Rode NT1-A condenser mic, and that's the whole reason why I bought this UR22, was to run it with a condenser mic, which is essentially a better quality mic. Now, you're not hearing me record through the device just yet, because I've obviously just got to the stage of installing the driver, but I'm just showing you what's in the instructions as well. But pure and simply, you've got 48 volt phantom power, which I needed for the condenser mic, and it's going to be plugged in with an XLR from the mic through to the first input on the UR22. Predominantly going to use this for podcasting, so we'll see how that goes. Screencasting, podcasting. Let me just have a look here. The Yamaha Steinberg driver, let's just quickly go through this. The Yamaha Steinberg USB driver is a software program which allows communication between the UR22 and a computer. Yamaha Steinberg USB driver has a control panel from which you can select the general settings of the audio driver for Windows and view the information for Mac. So let's just go through this. That was the instruction manual. We're going to go back to the Finder. That's to uninstall it. This is to install it, so I'm just going to double click that. I'm assuming it's going to open up another window. That just allows us to drag it straight into the, what's it called? Applications area. So it's a driver. It's not for anything you guys need to worry about. Oh, great. We've got to restart the computer. Okay, that's not a problem. That's no big deal. And simply, I'm assuming once the drivers are installed, restart your computer, and then the next step would be to just double check the drivers are running properly, and we'll check the manual again as well. And like I said, look, if nothing else, this is running on a Mac. It's 10.7, I think it is, the version of the operating system. So, you know, check the websites and everything else for which version you've got. But look, to be honest with you, upgrading to 10.7 isn't very hard. I think I paid $20 to upgrade to 10.7 operating system from 10.6.8. I don't really care about getting the latest version of, the Mac operating system, but you know, some of you might be further ahead, so don't worry about it. But those of you a little bit concerned that you might be on 10.5 or 10.6, it's not too hard to upgrade to 10.7. Generally finding, like this Mac, I think it's a 2009 Mac as well. So I'm not, Macs are pretty good generally when you're using a Mac. It's, mine's literally 3-4 years old, so it's working fine. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to show you is that the driver is successfully installed. So that is, now this is for Mac. Windows is different. I don't have a Windows machine, but you're going to be okay to install this driver if you're using Windows. But let me just show you for the sake of the exercise here for Mac. What you'll do is you'll go up to System Preferences. So that's the first thing you want to do. And once System Preferences is showing, you're going to notice that down the bottom there, over here, is Yamaha Steinberg USB. You'll be able to check to see that it is actually installed as the driver. So this is obviously the computer has been restarted, and there it is. So the driver is now successfully installed. That's why I was able to now plug in the UR22 device. And it didn't seem too difficult to put in an XLR. I'm using, once again, the NT1-A condenser mic. Yes, it's phantom powered. One big rule that they absolutely want you to avoid is unplugging and connecting cables when phantom power is switched on. So a big mistake is to start plugging cables in and out for the microphones if phantom power is switched on. Let's cover off this next step, which is select the sample rate of the device via the audio MIDI setup. Now, obviously, I'm going to be checking what buffer size is and all that, and I'll be checking that on Google and all the rest of it. But just for the sake of setting up the driver, let's go to the next step. The way you do that, you go down to Finder. You'll go to Applications, and you'll actually go down to Utilities. And as I said, this is for Mac, obviously. And there is Audio MIDI Setup. I'm just going to do Command O to open it. You could just double click it with the mouse. And I've already gone in here and selected 48 kilohertz. But once again, you can see the 192 kilohertz option. Okay, so this is me now recording obviously with the UR22, and now we're showing you the Dolby sound booth. So drivers were installed earlier in the video, obviously you saw that. Then I've basically plugged in the UR22 via USB, pretty straightforward. Plugged in the XLR mic, and now the NT1-A, everything's gone in pretty smoothly. The software that I've gone with is Adobe Sound Booth. Like I said, it seems to be just a simple, clean, and easy piece of software to get started with. And that's technically and a good sign that the UR22 definitely works with other software. So, and like I said, I mean, if you're using something else, I'm assuming like if you're using Logic Pro or Adobe Pro Tools or even Audacity, I'm assuming is a freeware piece of software, and I'm assuming it would work as well. So all I needed to do was go into Adobe Sound Booth, Preferences, and starting with this, audio hardware, and that's all I did was just basically select it, and everything else worked. If I click on settings, all it's going to do is bring up the driver details, so don't need to worry about that. The selection here is for left, right, nothing's plugged into right, so nothing's going to come out of that, which is fine. Buffer size in samples, haven't really kind of bothered with this. I've just gone with 512. It was already there, but look, something tells me that's to do with RAM, but look, I could be wrong there, but anyway, definitely something. The sample rate, once again, I'm just matching what I selected earlier. I haven't bothered with anything higher than 48 kilohertz because essentially this is all going to end up on YouTube, so it's overkill if I go any higher. Technically speaking, though, if I've obviously got a song that's been recorded by a singer, I would double this, or even go 4 times as high. But for our purposes, that's fine. There's probably things I can check out on the settings, but this isn't about the settings on Sound Booth, so I'm not going to worry about it just yet. Just in case, just as a useful thing here, where everything's being saved, I could change this. This is actually happening on my computer, but technically speaking, I should browse and find my hard drive. That's an external hard drive. So generally speaking, you want to save things to an external hard drive. I haven't bothered just yet, but I'll obviously change that in a sec. And this can be changed as well. So this type of stuff is about the only other thing you'd want to change. And that's all working. That's all working beautifully. So that's all there was to it. And 9 times out of 10, that's what you'll be doing, is going into audio hardware with most of the software that you're using. So what it's recording from and outputting to, that's why I can hear what I'm recording back into the headset, which is coming through the UR22 as well. So I'm not having to worry about listening to speakers and things like that. Okay, so to record something new, all I do is Sound Booth. It's actually pretty simple. I just go straight down to the bottom here, click on the record button. Okay, and as I said, this is something that's important for you to see. You can see I'm getting a pretty good set of levels here, and I'm moving around. So technically speaking, when you're talking into a mic, you face the mic and you stay facing it. But anyway, I could also probably improve the position of the mic. Incidentally, the stand that I'm using, the mic stand, is the K&M made in Germany brand. K&M is fantastic. They're engineered, manufactured, designed in Germany. I personally think they're worth getting. They might cost a little bit more than something made in China, but quite frankly, the quality is second to none. And you get a mic stand that has the boom arm. So it's got the arm that can be extended to move forward, backwards, all the rest, because generally speaking, when you mount your mic, you want to mount it on a stand away from the table, because I can sit there and scratch around on this table and do stuff, but of course the mic doesn't pick it up because it's not a desk stand. But here's the device. It's pretty easy. You just click on this button, and it's obviously selected by default because we did that in the settings earlier. The sample rate's the same as everything else that I've set up, including when I went into the settings earlier in the video. I've gone for mono only because I've only got one channel, so I'm not really worried about stereo and all the rest of it. Obviously, I'm going with input 1, the same as the input that's on the device itself. So UR22 has got the input 1. And then the only other thing to worry about is this, as I said, the location, volumes, lacy, blah, blah. So this is where everything's getting recorded to, is my lacy drive. I prefer to record and have files saved to the lacy drive as opposed to, say, the actual hard drive of the system itself. So that's just something to bear in mind as well. And that's it. And now just click the record button and we're off and running. So that will start recording, and that's all there is to it.